again, everybody. Wow. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Tigers Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Schulte, and let's get started. Let's start life off today with the injury report, because there's really not much positive to talk about in the Tigers week, considering that they went 2-4 last week, a losing week for the first time in a while. Remember, I consider a winning week to be 50%. So if they go 3-3, that's a winning week, because they didn't lose more than they won. They also didn't win more than they lost, but it's still a winning week in my opinion. So there you go. Injury report. Parker Meadows came off the injured list on Friday. He homered the first pitch that he saw, which is kind of similar to what he did, I think, last year when he came off of the injured list. It might have been his first at-bat against Cincinnati. It was either his first at-bat or it was the first pitch of his first I know it was his first at-bat, but I don't remember if it was his first pitch or not. But anyway, he came off the injured list. Matt Vierling is still dealing with some issues. Alex Cobb has shut it down for the year and probably for his career, which, you know, it is what it is. This show, by the way, being recorded on Monday, September 8th, 2025. I forgot to get that in the opening, but anyway. So yeah, Alex Cobb has shut it down. He's having hip surgery again, and I have a feeling it was only a 1-year deal for $15 million. I have a feeling he's done. I have a feeling that Scott Harris might try to talk him off the couch next year, and he's going to be like, look, dude, I just can't. I got my family to think about. I got the rest of my life to think about. I just can't keep doing this. But we'll see. We will see. And you know what? Players like that, because Alex Cobb had some pitching talent. Alex Cobb knew how to pitch, knows how to pitch. I shouldn't say that he knew how. He's not past tense. But Alex Cobb knows a thing or two about pitching. Players like that tend to become coaches and managers. So don't be surprised if a few years down the road you see him sitting in a dugout as a pitching coach or as a bullpen coach, or, you know, possibly managing someday, or maybe in the broadcast booth, because players like that also become analysts. You're not going to see Wade Boggs as an analyst. You're not going to see George Brett as an analyst, but you do see Kirk Gibson as an analyst. You do see Dan Petrie, Craig Monroe. Well, Craig Monroe, I think, is still dealing with some personal issues. You know, Andy Dirks. Those guys, those role players, so to speak, become analysts. And sometimes you see Hall of Famers. Jack Morris did it for a while. But yeah, you generally see these guys become analysts, or they have to stay in baseball in some way. And as a coach or an analyst, it's great for them. So yeah, he's done. Jose Urquidy threw 3 innings, 39 pitches on Saturday. He's on his way back from Tommy John surgery. It'll be interesting to see how that goes for him. Also how it goes for Brant Herter, who I believe is now on a rehab assignment. I'm not really quite sure. I think he's actually now that I think about it, I think he's actually just doing a throwing progression. So we'll see. Update for Kyle Finnegan. Kyle Finnegan went on the IL on September 1st. He figures he'll be back by the 16th. He said he's not going to need a rehab assignment because he went on the injured list with groin tightness. He said he had a hamstring injury that was very similar in degree of pain to this a couple years ago. And as long as he's able to keep the arm moving, which he should be able to do, he should be able to still throw and keep his arm in some kind of shape. He said as long as he's able to do that, he shouldn't have shouldn't require any rehab assignment. So he plans on being back on the 16th, which would put it right about a week from tomorrow and right at home against the Guardians. And at that point, we may be talking about magic numbers. And the reason that I say that is because the Tigers are 8.5 up on Kansas City right now with 12 games to play. 18 games to play. 8.5 up with 18 games to play. Dan Dickerson brought it up on the broadcast yesterday, and he's like, the magic number is 11. And I'm like, hey, it's a little bit high to be considering magic number time right now. A little bit early, but it's always nice to look at. So yeah, Detroit's up by 8.5. They're behind Toronto by a half a game for best record in the American League. Toronto losing 2 out of 3 to the Yankees this weekend. Detroit losing 2 out of 3 to Chicago. And here's my problem with the Tigers. Every single series, they play to the level of their competition. They really do. Okay, the Mets came in and handed it to Detroit. Some teams are just better. New York was just better for 2 out of 3 games than the Tigers were. The Tigers should have won yesterday's game. Tigers should have swept Chicago, in all honesty, because Chicago didn't play well defensively over those 3 games. Problem is Detroit didn't pitch well. Tommy Kahnle is not there yet for the Tigers. He's not ready for the spotlight yet anymore at this point. He's still a bit behind. It still gets to him a little bit. Yeah, he pitches well in mop-up situations or in situations where the game's out of reach. But, if Detroit's up 6-0, you can put Tommy Kahnle in and have some faith that he's going to do pretty well. And he did well in his first inning. He walked. Look, Tommy Kahnle got himself into some trouble in the 7th and got himself out of trouble. And that's fine. He did okay. That was good. Why A.J. Hinch ran him out there in the 8th in a 4-4 game is beyond me. But that game shouldn't have been 4-4. Because Charlie Morton shouldn't have given up 3 runs. Charlie Morton should have been out of the first inning and not given up the 2 runs that the White Sox scored in the first inning. Then Chicago comes in and makes a bad defensive play in the bottom of the first. That should have been it. It should have been 4-0 Tigers. That should have been the final. 4-1 at the very least. Shouldn't have been. Chicago should not have been even in that game yesterday. But Detroit's pitching has spit the bit. And why did they spit the bit? Because they play to the intensity level of their competition. Chicago's okay. They're not great. They're better than they were last year. But I mean, you lost 121 games last year. You got to be better somehow. But they're not world beaters. Detroit shouldn't have lost that series. They really shouldn't have. They did. So it is what it is. If they had won that series, they'd be a game and a half up on Toronto right now for best record in the American League. They'd be 10 and a half games up on Kansas City. But we are where we are. And we're going to we're going into New York tomorrow and Miami on Friday. And neither one of those series are looking all that promising for me. Detroit does not play well against Miami, whether it be in Miami or whether it be in Detroit. And the Yankees are the Yankees. And right now, the Yankees are one of the hottest teams in baseball. So Detroit better step up. They need to win both of those series. I don't know that they're going to do it. They might go 3-3 again this week. But I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they go 2-4. They're not going to get swept in both series. But I don't see them winning both series. I really don't. I guess they have to win one of those two series, because if they go 3-3, but if they do, it'll be the Marlins series that they win. I don't see them going in and beating the Yankees. I just don't. I'm going to end this on a positive note, though. I got to thinking about this yesterday. Who do you trust more for the Tigers with a runner on third and less than 2 out than Zach McKinstry? I don't know what his batting average is right now. I don't know what his I could have gotten his stats before the show, before the podcast. I just didn't. I chose to mop my kitchen floor instead. But I don't know what his regular overall stats are as far as his batting average, how many runs he's got, how many RBIs he has, how many homers he has, all of that. I don't even know his batting average on in situations where there's runners on third and less than 2 outs. And that can be misleading because, okay, let's say he's hitting 240 with runners at third and less than 2 outs. But let's say that 20% of those outs are fly balls or ground balls up the middle. And he's getting runs batted. He's driving in runs because of it. There was a guy that played second base for Atlanta back in the early 90s. And his name was Mark Lemke. And Mark Lemke was always your 8th place hitter in the Atlanta Braves lineup. And the reason that he was your 8th place hitter is because your pitcher that's when pitchers could hit. So, well, they had to hit. It wasn't that they could, they had to. So pitchers had to hit. So he was your 8th place hitter just ahead of the pitcher. He'd have been a 9th place hitter in a lineup today. But one thing that Mark Lemke always seemed to do is come up with the clutch hit or the clutch at bat when the game was on the line. When there was a runner in scoring position, you knew that a lot of the time Mark Lemke was going to bring him home. That's Zach McKinstry for you. Zach McKinstry is the 2025 version of Mark Lemke. Wenceel Perez is at third with 1 out yesterday. Here's how the situation unfolded. Wenceel doubled. Colt Keith came up, got him over to third. 1 out. Wenceel Perez is at third. I knew Detroit was going to score because Zach McKinstry was stepping to the plate. It's like, yeah, he's gonna bring him home. It's just how it's going to be. And you know what? He did. He brought him home. He had a fly ball to left field and left center field. Brought him home. It's uncanny how good he is with runners at third and less than 2 out. This is where he's going to make his money. He's a free agent at the end of the year. And Detroit better sign him, because if they don't, they're going to miss him. They're going to miss his presence in the clubhouse really, really badly. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can at Podcast Tigers on Twitter, at TB Podcast, at tweezcake.social on Mastodon, or you can always email the show, tigersbaseballpodcast@gmail.com. It's the world's longest email address. I'm proud of that. You can also leave a comment on the YouTube page. I would appreciate it. Let me know that you're listening. Thanks for listening. I do appreciate you guys. We'll talk to you next week. And as always, go Tigers.